Born in the dacoit-infested region of Chumbu, Manoj Kumar Sharma is the son of a clerk. His father, an honest man, is suspended from his job for hitting a corrupt officer. During his Class 12 exams, Manoj prepares cheat slips just like all his classmates. The local school teachers even assist the students in cheating. However, a newly transferred police officer, DSP Dushyant Singh, cracks down on cheating at the school. As a result, all the students, including Manoj, fail the exam. Meanwhile, Manoj's father challenges a suspension in the high court, fighting for justice. To support their family during this difficult time, Manoj and his brother decide to run a traveling rickshaw. However, tragedy strikes when Manoj's brother is falsely accused of smuggling alcohol on his rickshaw. The accusation comes after he hits a local henchman of the MLA, who had tried to force their passengers to travel on a bus instead. The police, influenced by the MLA's henchmen, frame Manoj's brother, leaving the family in even greater distress. However, Manoj goes to DSP Dushyant to ask for help in bailing his brother out of prison. He explains that his brother was imprisoned unfairly because they refused to pay a bribe. DSP Dushyant goes to the police station and bails out his brother. Inspired by DSP Dushyant's actions, Manoj expresses his desire to become like him and asks what he should do to achieve this. DSP Dushyant advises him to stop cheating. Manoj takes this advice to heart and begins preparing for his exams honestly. When the day of the examination arrives, Manoj passes his exam without cheating, unlike other students. Filled with hope, Manoj feels his dream of becoming a DSP is coming true. His grandmother, witnessing his success, gives him all her savings and encourages him to become an honest DSP. Manoj initially refuses to take the money, but she insists, and he eventually accepts it. He starts his journey to Gwalior, where he plans to take the MPPSC exam. On the bus, a woman steals all his money while he is asleep. To make matters worse, he later learns that the government has decided to halt the Group I exams for MPPSC for the next 3 years. This shatters his dream of becoming a DSP. Now left with nothing, he sleeps on the streets and goes without food for days. Unable to bear the hunger any longer, he goes to a local hotel and asks for food in exchange for his services. They agree and give him food. While eating, he meets Preetam Pandey, who has also come prepare for the PSC exam. Pandey's father calls him and advises him to prepare for the UPSC exam in Delhi to become an IPS officer, which is a higher position than a DSP. Manoj learns about the UPSC exam and begs Preetam to take him to Delhi so he can study there and take the exam. Pandey agrees and takes Manoj to Delhi to his home. The next day, Preetam's friend tells him about a person who can help them pass their exam. They go to meet him, and when they arrive, they find many students already sitting in his home, seeking his guidance. His name is Gauri Bia. Gauri Bia is someone who has failed the exam many times, but due to his experience, now helps fresh candidates understand how to pass the exam. Gauri tells him that out of 200,000 students, only 25 to 30 make it to become an IPS officer, which will be very difficult for someone without a strong educational background. He also shares that he failed the exam 5 times over 5 years, but never lost hope, and is now preparing for his final attempt. Gauri helps Manoj get a job in a library and a place to study. Gauri Bia is on his final attempt at the examination. Unfortunately, Gauri Bia is unable to clear his final attempt and opens a tea shop named Restart, where he continues to provide guidance to other UPSC aspirants. Preetam, however, no longer wants to follow someone he sees as a loser and decides to join another team led by Marin, who successfully became an IPS officer. In his first attempt, Manoj fails a preliminary examination, but Gauri convinces him to restart. Manoj studies hard throughout the year while working at the library and, in his free time, helps Gauri sell tea. One day, Manoj goes to deliver tea to Marin's team. Marin calls him a tea bowie, but his friend informs him that Manoj is a UPSC aspirant. Marin apologizes and tells Manoj that he owes him and can ask for help if he ever needs anything. On his second attempt, Manoj passes the exam, while his friend Preetam fails. Manoj decides to join a coaching center and meet Shraddha, a UKPSC aspirant who has come for the same reason. However, they soon realize that the coaching center is not good and decide to leave after getting to know each other. Later, they meet again in the library where Manoj works. Shraddha assumes he is an aeronautical engineer because he is holding a book related to that field. Manoj, however, does not clarify that he is actually a literature graduate. Allowing her to believe something that is not true eventually upsets Shraddha when she discovers the reality. Manoj loses his library job due to a dispute with his boss and starts living in a mill house. His friend comes and offers to take him with him, but Manoj refuses and stays there. When the day of the examination arrives, Manoj fails because he mistakenly writes about terrorists instead of tourists. His relationship with Shraddha also suffers when she learns about his deception. Disheartened, Manoj travels to Mussoorie to apologize to Shraddha and confess his love. She advises him to return to Delhi and continue his preparation. Manoj decides to visit his home instead and finds that his grandmother has passed away. He also discovers that his family is facing financial difficulties. Heartbroken but determined, he returns to Delhi with a renewed resolve to pass the examination. This time, he clears the preliminary exam but fails the mains. Now, only one last attempt remains for Manoj. If he fails, he will lose his chance to become an IPS officer. Desperate, Manoj turns to Marin for help to pass the mains exam. He explains that this is his final attempt. Marin agrees to help but first asks Manoj to write 200 words about himself. To Marin's surprise, Manoj struggles and fails to write even that. Marin tells Manoj bluntly, "You cannot become an IPS officer if you can't even write about yourself. How will you write about complex topics?" His words hit Manoj hard, leaving him questioning his abilities and his dream. Frustrated with Manoj's struggles, Gauri moves him to his own house and tells him to give up working odd jobs and focus entirely on his studies. Manoj, now fully dedicated, starts studying harder than ever before with the help of Shraddha and his friends. His hard work pays off, and he finally clears the main examinations. Shraddha also succeeds, clearing her UKPSC examinations to become a deputy collector. However, Manoj's friend Preetam fails his final attempt and can no longer pursue his dream of becoming an IPS officer. Meanwhile, Preetam, bitter about his failure, spreads rumors to Shraddha's family, claiming that she has been sleeping with Manoj. Manoj becomes furious with Preetam, but soon realizes that Preetam's actions stem from his own frustrations. Preetam confesses that he never wanted to pursue the UPSC. His father pressured him into it, and his true passion is to become a reporter. Manoj advises Preetam to stand up to his father and follow his own dreams instead of living someone else's. The day of the interview arrives, and the tension is palpable. Out of 10 students, 8 fail, a statistic that sends a wave of fear through Manoj. Sitting in the pre-interview room, his heart races as his turn approaches. Just before he enters, an official asks him about the gap in his 12th grade. Manoj, with a deep breath, answers honestly. He failed his first attempt and passed on the second. As he walks toward the interview room, a worker pulls him aside and whispers urgently, "Don't mention that you failed your 12th grade. Tell them your grandmother passed away instead. It will sound better." Manoj pauses, torn between the truth and the advice. Inside the interview room, the panel fires questions at him. Despite the pressure, Manoj sticks to his principles and answers every question truthfully, refusing to hide his past failures. After the interview, Manoj is asked to wait outside while the panel deliberates. As he sits there, his mind racing, he remembers a letter Shraddha had given him earlier that day. He opens it, and her words leap off the page. "No matter what happens, marry me." The letter fills him with a mix of hope and anxiety, but he is convinced he has failed. What's the point? He thinks. I already know the outcome. When the results are announced, Manoj was too afraid to check the results himself, so he asked Shraddha to look for his name on the board. She agreed and walked over, her heart pounding as she scanned the list. Moments felt like hours. Finally, she turned back and slowly walked toward him, and then nodded her head, a silent confirmation that he had been selected. One year later, the suspense finally breaks. Manoj, now a proud IPS officer, stands tall as he meets DSP Dushyant Singh at the police station in Manzo. With gratitude in his voice, he thanks DSP Dushyant for being his inspiration and hands him an invitation to his wedding. The story concludes with Manoj marrying Shraddha, their love triumphing over all odds, and Pritam, having found his true calling, stepping into his new role as a news reporter.